Thank you for all those who are here for the testimony today. Is very helpful. One, clearly America will pay its debts. That's been made clear by Republicans and Democrats in Congress. We always have. And I hope that those who choose to be melodramatic about it these days to gain political advantage, if you could please stop, that'd be helpful. Secondly, there is absolutely no chance that the President's request to have a permanent, unlimited debt ceiling will occur. This is the constitutional prerogative of the House and the Senate. As we've seen in the past, it's also been a helpful tool, not only on checks and balances, but to enact spending reforms and restraints that can be helpful, although in my view have not been as helpful as they have in the past. And a third point is that the claim we heard earlier today that a short-term extension of the debt limit may raise our U.S. government debt service costs, that is highly speculative. The 2011 GAO study showed mixed results with no significant impacts in 40% of the extensions, so 3 out of every 5 had no impact. The 2012 report was based on only one event, so it's statistically inconclusive. The bipartisan Policy Center estimates are based upon both of these questionable GAO studies, and they miss the point. The fact of the matter is unsustained spending over time, without doubt, will raise the cost of our borrowing in America. That's why we are all here today to deal with this issue or attempt to give our best insight. I'd like to ask Dr. Foster a question because it relates to the debt ceiling. Many of us see the other side of that coin as a credit downgrade, a second one, which has serious consequences, not just for our borrowing, but for borrowing of small businesses and consumers at home. My question to you, and I know there's different opinions, but what do you think Congress has to do? What steps should we take to create not just medium-term fiscal consolidation addressing that issue, but long-term dealing with our long-term drivers of debt and spending? What do we need to do to avoid a second downgrade? Well, or downgrade by a second credit rating to be accurate.
To avoid another downgrade, which on our current path is almost assured, really need to do two things, and they're pointed out in the letter expressing the first downgrade. One, don't raise any question about not raising the debt ceiling. Ultimately, we have to do that. And the second is we have to get our long-term fiscal house in order. That means we have to get the entitlement programs under control, achieving two goals. One, the reforms necessary to make sure they achieve the result intended, which is protecting at-risk populations while spending monies that we can afford to spend and no more. There are simple entitlement reforms, straightforward, they've been well vetted, that this Congress could adopt, I believe, fairly quickly. They're not even legislatively complex. And these are the kind of reforms that have received bipartisan support in the past. They're sort of common sense things. It's frustrating, in fact, that we don't take them more seriously and move on them because they have profound impacts in the long run. Where the problem really is, yes, we have a serious problem with a $1 trillion budget deficit today, but really, as large as that is, that problem is dwarfed by our long-run fiscal problems from the entitlement programs. We know some of the basic reforms, bipartisan reforms that can be enacted that will go a long way to getting Medicare and Social Security in particular under control on a more sustainable path, and that's where the Congress should be looking as we debate fiscal policy this year, beginning with the debt ceiling.
Do you think investors look beyond that debt ceiling issue to those fundamentals you talked about, answering the question, is America serious about getting its financial house in order over the long term? Do you think that's really the creates the most uncertainty going forward over the long term?
It's certainly a tremendous source of uncertainty. There are others, but that is a major source of uncertainty that credit markets most assuredly look at, as indicated by the letter transmitting the debt credit rating downgrade the last time.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.